Hello everybody at Chiltern Learning Trust. I'm really pleased to be contributing to this excellent event. Always a real pleasure to be asked, and amazing organisation. I think the work they do for teaching and learning is fantastic, sharing all these events. I'm going to talk to you a bit about some thoughts I've had about remote learning, which is everyone's current preoccupation for obvious reasons. And I've got this sort of 6-stage plan, which I'm going to share with you now and talk about one by one. Things to think about when you're planning your remote learning. The first thing is to think about, obviously, the curriculum as a whole, because the whole point of remote learning is to get students to learn things which you've designed and to manage that through the remote process. But the curriculum itself hasn't changed to a large extent. But you need to be clear what it is that you're trying to teach. So be really clear to the students and to yourself, what am I trying to get across? So that all the technology and all the rest of it sort of falls into the background because you're focusing on, I need them all to know this, I need them all to be able to do this, I need them all to understand this. So a big picture is really helpful. What are you aiming to cover by, say, February half term? And do the students know that? So give them a big picture. Now, why is that helpful? If we're going through lessons where there's a bit of online, there's a bit of independent learning, that can be very fragmented if we don't know what it all adds up to. But if I can see that it's adding up to this big thing over here, we're aiming at all of that, you can check, okay, we've covered that, we've covered that. Then obviously you break it down to the lesson. So in this lesson I'm going to cover this bit, the next lesson I'll do that, and next lesson I'll do that. But it's always knowing where it's going. Plan the input. So obviously you've got to decide, am I doing it live? Do I need to do a PowerPoint? Will the students be present? If any significant proportion won't be present, maybe you're going to do it as a video and just share the video with them, and that can help you get it ready in advance and they can watch it anytime they like because it's not going to have live interactivity during it, and that can be often more useful. Or are you just going to set them assignments and some reading material to go and do at home and some practice questions to supplement some other resources? So you need to decide that. It doesn't have to be live, but if it's not live, you then need to think about, how do I know they're engaging with it? And that's a little bit harder. So the third section is checking for engagement. Now you've planned your resources, you've got your curriculum. Are all the students engaging with it? Well, you need to know. Now when it's live, there are lots of tools for doing that. And I've seen lots of teachers show this. So for example, using the chat, you can make sure that students are recording that if it's just the chat only. If you're seeing their faces, then you can use cold calling techniques and you've got their names and you can say things like, Siobhan, tell me what you were thinking, and Michael, what did you think of that? And you use their names and get them to talk to you rather than saying things like, has everyone got that? Yeah. You ask them to tell you, or you get them to put it in the chat. Or using shared documents. Lots of teachers are using shared documents like something as simple as a spreadsheet or a Google Slides where everybody's got their slides. And if you can see everybody has written something and you can scan across columns of a spreadsheet and they've all written their answer, you know they're all with you and they're all listening. Or if it's asynchronous, that they followed the instructions that you gave them and they watched the video because the question you asked required them to see that video, and you can see they've all put an answer in that box on the Google form or on their table or on forms in Teams or whatever. So make sure that you're telling the students that. I will know if you've done the work because then your name will be here, your answer will be there, I'll see your response in this place, and that you will check. If they trust that you will check because you do, then they're more likely to keep it up with it. If they sense that you don't really notice if they're there or not, and you've just sent them off to go and do stuff, that's much less likely to work. And of course, there's things like quizzing. You can say, at the end of all the work, basically I'll check you've engaged with it because there's going to be a knowledge quiz on this date, and that might be something you do live with them or something they respond to and they send you their answers. So some sort of obligation to keep up with the work because they're going to be, low stakes testing will be part of it, is part of that engagement. The tasks, now a lot of the time the students are going to be listening to videos and engaging, but then they're going to go off and do things. Now that hopefully will take up most of their time because that's a sensible way of proportioning your input and their practice. Make sure that it's really clear what to do. Again, check for understanding. Does everybody know what to do? By asking individuals to reflect back to you. Can you access the resources? Can you see what the deadline is? Make sure they can tell you what they're supposed to do by a certain date. And make sure that, if it's in the lesson, if you're doing live lessons, that you're giving yourself enough time to give the input, get them practicing, and check. If there's no checking at the end of a task, you're going to get lower quality. So the students knowing that at the end of the task there will be a moment where I have to sort of show it will help you deal with it. The next thing is then that assess and evaluate. You've got to close the loop. You've got them to do all these practice tasks. If it's all written, handwritten, or offline, then you've got to deal with sampling that and then showing you some of it. So, photographing it and uploading it. That's obviously much more time consuming, but is valid if that's the main way a lot of your learners are accessing the work. If it's all integrated into shared documents, like I've seen some fantastic notebooks made with every student having a page on a PowerPoint slide, which is theirs and their names on it, and they write all their answers on that slide or on a Padlet or something equivalent, then you can see their work live dynamically as they're doing it and at the end. Or it could be every student has done, whether it's OneNote or whether it's a Google Docs, whatever the platform is, that you see their work, whether it's during the time they're doing it or when they finished it, without them having to hand it in. It's just live and dynamic, and that's useful. Or you see their question responses or whatever. And then don't overcook the expectations that you're going to check everything they've done. That's a recipe for making it all too cumbersome. But check that they're engaging with it. And then when you see them live or you have interactions with them, you can say that you know that they finished it, or you can comment on some aspects of it. So the checking is key, but making it live and dynamic is going to be much easier than big hand-in dumps of work, which you then have to then browse through. Of course, if you're a primary teacher and you've got your class of 30, doing a once a week upload of some samples of key bits of work would probably be a really good way of doing it. You can see photographs of the key bits of work, and everyone sees it, and then you follow that through the next week, and I've seen that working well. And last of all, feedback. Students need to know that their work has some value, but again, you can't mark everything any more than you would do in a normal flow of lessons. So have you got, say, self-checking quizzes that you've built into the platform? Are you using the time when you are live with them to see their work arriving on their Padlets or their Google Sheets, and making comments there and then, either verbally, online, just on camera, or using, voice notes, or I've seen teachers suggesting that what they do is that they identify key students they need to see at a certain live session, even if all the other students are just working at home independently, and they've asked 3 or 4 students to meet them online to talk about their work, and they try to sort of go through their whole class with a hit of interpersonal feedback, and that's sometimes a really helpful thing to do. Every student needs to feel that the teachers noticed their work at some point to some degree, but make it as automatic as possible, as whole class as possible, and much less reliant on you checking everything and giving it back, which sort of doubles the workload. So those are my suggestions. They don't really come from my own practice, but they come from gleaning what lots of other people are doing. And hopefully that's a useful overview of kind of this cycle of ideas. Good luck with it.